So we are recording. So without further ado, we'll start the review of Atomic Habits. Dun, dun, dun. We'll continue the review because we have been working our way through it. So we are on the third law, make it easy, chapters 11 to 14. So just a very quick review was that the key point, the fundamentals, he talked about to start with why tiny changes make a big difference and how we sort of underestimate what we can do in the long term. We overestimate what we can do in the short term. And in the long term, we can make big changes by consistently making little changes. Just letting Jane into the meeting as well. Then the first law was to make it obvious, and the part of the 4 simple steps. Good morning, Jane. Welcome aboard.
Hey there, everybody. Great to see you all.
So, yep, just quickly reviewing that earlier part. So, first law was make it obvious. The second law was to make it attractive, and the opposite of that, of course, is if you want to make a bad habit undesirable, is you make it unattractive and you make it not obvious. So we're on to the third law, making it easy, and chapters 11 to 14. So starting with chapter 11, walk slowly but never backward. Did you know, I'm sure Stan will know the answer to this, that there are 2 animals on the Australian coat of arms? And did you know that they were chosen because they can't walk backwards? Can you remember what they are?
Did you know that we're the only country to eat the animals on our coat of arms?
And they are? You remember the 2 animals, Stan?
They're the kangaroo and the emu. And they're very tasty.
Yeah, and they can't, apparently they can't walk backwards. So that was part of why they were chosen, is that Australia is advancing. Advance Australia is our national anthem. So we're always moving forwards. There you go, a little bit of general knowledge for you.
That's neat.
It is, isn't it? So he starts off with talking about the groups, the comparison groups of photographers, and that the best photos at the end of the term were produced by the quantity group. So he was basically saying that the best is the enemy of the good. In other words, if you just get on with it and turn up and do it, you will over time get better at it. And the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it. So we are creatures of repetition, aren't we? We learn from repetition. So action is what drives the outcome. He said, if I outline 20 ideas for articles I want to write, that's motion. But if I actually sit down and write an article, that's action. How easy is it to get stuck in the motion stage? You know, people join the gym, but don't go there. You start the walking program and you go for a couple of days, but then you don't carry on with it. Or you plan to go for walks, but you don't actually get around to doing it. So habit formation is the process by which a behavior becomes progressively more automatic through repetition. And he quotes a neuropsychologist, Donald Hebb, Hebb's law: neurons that fire together, wire together. You've probably heard that somewhere at some point. So that really is the summary of that chapter. The third law of behavior change is making it easy, and practice is the most effective form of learning, not planning. We learn best when we're actually doing it, rather than when we're thinking about doing it or planning to get around to doing it. And it becomes a habit by repetition. So really, even as he goes on to say, even if you do 2 minutes of something a day, it's better than doing nothing. You know, it might seem like, well, it's only 2 minutes, what's the point? But like you said, once you get started, it leads on to other things, and we'll come to that in the next chapter. Any other thoughts on that on that particular chapter. Pretty short one, that really. I love this example about the taxi drivers in London. That when they're working as a taxi driver, the part of their brain becomes huge, where it's the hippocampus, where it's involved with spatial memory. So you can ask a taxi driver to take you to a location, and this was back in the old days before sat nav and all that. But they used to know the roads. They used to know where to go to, and they knew all the side streets and the shortcuts and all the rest of it, because they had this massive map in their brain. And then after they retired, it gradually starts to reduce the memory of all these side roads and so on. I suppose it's just, if you're on the road all the time, it stands to reason that you're gonna know the roads a lot better than if you only drive down somewhere a certain, every couple of years or something. So, any other thoughts on that one? Nope. So chapter 12, the law of least effort. Now, I found this fascinating about the agriculture, about the that when it makes sense, of course, that the climate is consistent on that horizontal loop around the world, that if you want to grow a certain type of crop, it will grow in the same kind of climate conditions in one country as in another, if it's on that same is it latitude? Yeah, I think it's latitude, isn't it? So
flat.
Thank you, Stan. You can tell someone's been homeschooling lately, can't you? So yes, energy is precious, and the brain is wired. This is in orange, this important bit here. The brain is wired to conserve it whenever possible. It is human nature to follow the law of least effort, which states that when deciding between two similar options, people will naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. And this is one that sometimes I get frustrated in our household with my partner, where she like puts things in the cupboard because then they're in the cupboard out of the way, rather than putting them in the right place in the cupboard, if you know what I mean. It's like, I can't see it now, it's in the cupboard, so it's done, it's out of the way. All the tins are all mixed up and everything, and I'm one of those people who like to sort them out, so I can go like, oh, there's all the tins of this here and the tins of that there, and you can actually find what you're looking for quite quickly, and it makes sense to me. It's easier to me. But those are the sort of things that can break up marriages, over the long term.
Peter, if I do it.
Yep. Now here's one. Do you put the glasses in your cupboard facing upside, like with the drinking part upwards or downwards?
Down.
And why would you do that?
So
Nothing
that
can
don't get into them.
Nothing can fly into it.
Yeah, and also doesn't collect dust inside the glass, does it, that way? So
Right.
But
we've got boys that put away, so you might get a random.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the number of times I've tried sorting out the glasses in the cupboard, and then I go back a day later and they're all just mixed up again. I'm like, oh, it's too hard. You've either got to both do it, or.
And what do you do, Tony?
Well, I would prefer to put them down, like you said, so that they don't
The
collect.
top down.
Yeah, but most of them in our cupboard, I have to say, are the other way up. But it's funny that people get into a habit of doing things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
What they instinctively do. So look at any behavior that fills up much of your life, and you'll see that it can be performed with very low levels of motivation. And if you can make your good habits more convenient, you'll be more likely to follow through on them. So I like this comment about it. Make it as easy as possible in the moment to do things that pay off in the long run. We are creatures of emotion. So if we can kind of reduce our tendency to operate on a whim, you know, how we feel in that given moment. But we can set it up so that when we're thinking and we're rational and we're not affected by other things, and we have a new way that we want to do something, a new habit that we want to perform, if we set it up then while we're in that conscious thinking stage, then when we come to the moment where we might be emotional and operate on a whim and do something different, we've actually made it easier not to follow that whim. We've actually set it up so that it's easier for us to succeed. And the example was there, Ulysses lashing himself to the mast so that it wasn't affected by the siren to go off and head the ship towards the rocks. Do you remember that? Do you remember the story in Greek mythology? I think it's Greek mythology, isn't it?
Mm.
So yeah, that's mentioned in here somewhere at the bottom of one of these. Might be the different next chapter. So he knew that if he heard the sound of the sirens, he would be drawn towards them. So he would turn the ship towards them, and then the ship would perish on the rocks, and all the sailors would die in the ocean, drown in the ocean. But so that he couldn't do that, he made his sailors lash him to the mast, tie him to the mast, so that he couldn't go and grab the steering wheel and head it towards the rocks. And he lashed the mast, the steering wheel, so that it was facing away from the rocks, and so he wasn't going to be affected by the emotional pull at the time. He did that back at the time before he got to that area when he knew that's what was going to happen. So he'd set it up in advance. That's what that story was about.
Right.
So, and I love this, they call it, the Japanese strategy calls it addition by subtraction. So they look for every point of friction in the manufacturing process and eliminate it. And the same was this one with the British government wanting to increase tax collection rates. They switched from sending citizens to a web page where the tax form could be downloaded to linking directly to the form. That's an old marketing thing that we're taught, is you make it the least number of clicks that people have to do to get to the information that they need. And in this case, by reducing that one step in the process, it increased the response rate from 19.2% to 23.4%. For a country like the UK, those percentage points represent millions of pounds in tax revenue. So one little tiny change made a massive difference. And that was setting it up to make it to follow the law of least effort. And I found this one interesting because it reminded me of my parents. The purpose of resetting each room is not simply to clean up after the last action, to prepare for the next action. My parents would have a dinner party, and then after everyone had gone and they'd cleaned up and everything, they'd reset the dinner table so it was always ready for the next meal. So if the next meal was breakfast, it'd be set up for breakfast, and then after that was all cleared away, then it'd be set up for dinner. So the whole day the dinner table is set up ready for the next.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. It was a bit, almost a bit strange but they had a separate dining room that they could do that in, so it didn't really affect you. Whereas for me, I did the table clear, so I might want to put something on that table, but you couldn't because there was already knives and forks and place settings and all that already on the table.
You know what I found? That reminds me, I found myself just probably, it was in the last month, thinking about a girlfriend growing up, a neighbor, who, when she got ready for school, she got ready the night before. She was like clockwork. Everything was laid out: socks, shoes, the underwear, and the clothes, and like she did this, and I don't know. It just came to me recently, and I thought, what is that all about?
Well, that's exactly what you were just talking about. It's the law of least effort. It means that when you get up the next morning, you have less stress on your brain because everything's already there. You've thought about it while you were in a not in a stressed state. You've got it all prepared in advance. So that following morning, you can get up and everything you need is right there. The only trouble with that is if you forget something the night before. So
Yeah.
um,
Or the weather's different than you thought it was going to be or something.
yeah, I remember somewhere in the book, and because I've been listening to the audiobook again, so I think it might have been an earlier chapter, the thing about the pointing and calling in the Japanese
Oh, yes,
train
yeah.
guys.
Mhm.
You know, I sometimes do that myself when I'm leaving the house. I'll actually say out loud, you know, that old, I think I mentioned this last week, that old humorous saying, spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch. Have I got everything I need to leave the house? Or am I going to get down halfway down the road and go, oh, I've left that at home, you know, and I've got to turn around and go back for it. So, and yet it's still easy to drive off down the road and then realize you've left your phone at home or something, isn't it?
Mhm. Mhm.
On charge. You know, if your phone's on charge, that's one of the worst ones you've got to watch out for. And
Masks is usually what you leave.
masks. Oh my God, yeah. So I always have a spare mask in the car as well. So I, again, make it easy.
Oh,
If you do forget, there's a contingency plan.
I have a like a treasure box, I'll call it, with extra everything. And it's a very nice decorative box. And
How big is this box?
it's probably
Extra husband.
Now there's a thought.
That's in a different box.
That's in the trunk. I'll have you know.
That one comes with a pump.
Steady on, Tony.
No, I mean it's really it's bigger than a bread box, you know, and I keep, you know, wipes and like alcohol wipes and sunglasses and an extra pair of gloves and masks and
Does that
like
go
a
back to being a mum? Is it a
no, you know what it is? Otherwise, I will throw it on the front seat of the car and there it will stay. This way, it actually it's contained. But I would have, you know.
We have glove boxes for that in Australia.
Oh, I know. I have a glove. I know. My glove box is totally full. Totally, because I'm.
Husbands.
Oh no, just parts of them. No.
That's another topic.
Yeah, really, I know. Yeah. So, but it's just funny how your brain works.
I do find though, if I've been up late at night and I'm preparing for a meeting the next morning, I will have, like for instance, I run a fortnightly meeting and Stan comes along to that with a small business group. I'll have my whiteboard usually that I'm going to take to the meeting right next to the front door. So that or even if I think ahead, stick it in the car, but at least it's right near the door so I can grab it as I'm going out of the door. And, you know, my laptop's in my bag ready to go. And I've made sure that I've got the marker pens for the whiteboard and I've got the, you know, the HDMI cable so I can plug in the laptop at the cafe when I get there in the meeting room. And those sorts of things. I find it, if I do it the night before, it is less stressful the next morning than having to think, oh, what else do I need? What else do I need? And that's when you're in that kind of, I've got to get out the door, especially if you happen to wake up late or something the next morning, or something's delayed you, like you get an email or a phone call that you have to deal with, and then suddenly you're on the last minute. You don't want to be then having to think while you're under stress, oh, what else do I need to take with me today? Because that's when you're going to forget something. When you'll get halfway down the road and go, oh, I haven't got my laptop, you know, I can't do the PowerPoint or whatever, you know. So those are the things that if you plan ahead. And I suppose because my father was in the Air Force, he was one of those, but he was very disciplined about everything has a place and everything in its place. You know, his workshop, his garage, all the tools were in the, you know, they always got put back where they were supposed to go. Whereas my sheds, see, I sorted out my shed not long ago, well, a few months back. My wife's gone in and just dumped everything everywhere. So now I've got another like day's work to go and pull everything out of the shed and put it all back and sort it all out again. So it's funny because we have different ways of looking at that. We have different systems, like the glasses in the cupboard. Her attitude is, well, it's in the shed, it's out the way. I can't see it, so it's in the shed, you know. But it's not in the right place in the shed. It's just chaos. There's a desktop in the shed that's just covered in all sorts of stuff.
And we sometimes have different habits in different places. Like Chrissy always goes, oh, I always clean up when I'm at work. But sometimes when I'm at home, I just kind of put stuff anywhere, you know. She's like, what do I do with my phone and stuff? And I'm like, what do you do with it at work? Oh, I just put it in the right place all the time.
But is that like a fear of being judged by other people, or is it actually just you've got like your professional brain switched on and you're going, it makes sense for I leave it there so that the next staff member knows where to go and find it. Whereas if you leave it anywhere, then everyone's hunting around. I spend half my life looking for things that my wife has moved. And her argument would be, well, don't leave things laying around, so I've got to tidy them up. But you know, I'll leave something to me in a logical place, like next to the front door, and we've got this, you know, a flat surfaces are the worst things for this, aren't they? But we've got a flat surface there. I might leave something on there thinking I've got to take that with me tomorrow, and then I go to get it and she's moved it somewhere else, and then I'm spending 20 minutes hunting around. Where would she have put that? Especially if she's gone out and she's not there, and then I'm going, I can't ask her easily, what did you do with it? I don't know, I haven't seen it. And then I find where she's moved it to, because she doesn't even remember that she's moved it. She's just moved it. It's like, I don't want it there, I want it out of my sight, so I'll put it over there, you know. And my office gets used as a dumping ground as well, so anything she finds, she'll just put it in my office randomly, you know. And I'm sort of looking under things going, where's that document I left out, you know? So yes, we are. What makes sense to one person doesn't necessarily make sense to another, does it?
That's so true. So true.
One example of that was I had this beanie. This was in the winter, like a little hat that you wear, you know, when it's cold to keep your head warm. And I could not find this beanie. I thought I must have left it somewhere. I was driving myself insane, going around trying to think where I had last worn it. You know, you retrace your steps mentally. And I'd asked her about it. No, haven't seen it. And I'm thinking, I must have just, perhaps I've left it in so-and-so's car, or, you know, and I've gone all these steps. And a few months later, I was looking for something completely different. And I opened this cupboard and looking for something else, and there's the beanie. And I'm like, well, there's only one way it could have got into that cupboard, and I didn't put it there.
Fairies.
But no recollection of having done it, you know, just like I'm tidying it, it's out, like there's a cupboard, I'll stick it in there, it's out of sight, I can't see it, I don't have to deal with it. But then when I go, have you moved that? Where did you put it? No, I haven't seen it.
Well, you know, a real good remedy for that, and that this maybe explains why I shop as I do. See, I wouldn't have that problem because I probably have 7 hats for the winter to choose from. So I wouldn't care if I couldn't find one. I find another, and thank you, and I'm on my way, and life is grand. You know, it doesn't bother me.
Even if you can't find the color coordinated one, Jane?
You know what? Because I have 7 of them, it usually works out.
And you've probably got a spare one in that box, haven't you? So we're reducing the friction associated with good behaviors, and we're increasing the friction associated with bad behaviors. So when friction is high, habits are difficult. So that's pretty much that. Any other thoughts on the law of least effort, that section, that chapter? Okay, so then we've got chapter 13, how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. I'll tell you what, we'll get round to that in 2 minutes time.
That's good.
That was a lame joke, a dad joke. Okay, so So this was exactly what you've just been talking about, waking up each day of your life with a ritual. So the example here, this one of the greatest dancers and choreographers, I begin each day of my life with a ritual. I wake up at 5:30 a.m., put on my workout clothes, my leg warmers, my sweatshirt, and my hat, if you can find the hat. I walk outside my Manhattan home, hail a taxi, and tell the driver to take me to the Pumping Iron Gym at 91st Street, First Avenue, where I work out for 2 hours. The ritual is not the stretching and weight training I put my body through each morning at the gym. The ritual is the cab. The moment I tell the driver where to go, I have completed the ritual. So by doing it the same way each morning, makes it repeatable, makes it easy to do, reduces the chance that I would skip it or do it differently. It's one more item in my arsenal of routines and one less thing to think about. So that thing about automating things, the more you get into a ritual or routine of doing it, the more you just follow through and do it. Researchers estimate that 40 to 50% of our actions on any given day are done out of habit. Wow. And they are like the entrance ramp to a highway. They lead you down a path, and before you know it, you're speeding towards the next behavior. So, so the ritual is changing into my workout clothes. If I change clothes, I know the workout will happen. So he's talked about that somewhere else, about the running shoes. I remember if you want to go running, put the running shoes on, and then you're going to go running. Probably anyway. If you want to play guitar, pick up the guitar and play for 2 minutes, and then before you know it, you're playing for 20 minutes. Have the guitar easy to find, not hidden somewhere. So he says, every day there are a handful of moments that deliver an outsized impact. I refer to these little choices as decisive moments. They set the options available to your future self. Right. So when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. So reading, here's a couple of examples. Read before bed each night becomes read one page. Anyone can read one page, can't they? But do you stop at one page? If you're really tired, you might. But if you are enjoying what you're reading, there's a good chance you'll perhaps carry on and read the whole chapter. And I've had that where I've been reading and I'm getting a bit tired, and I think, let's at least just get to the end of the chapter, and then I can feel like I've completed what I set out to do. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. So you find the 2-minute thing that's easy to do, and that gets you started. Fold the laundry becomes fold one pair of socks. The thought of doing the dishes, you just start, you wash one dish, and then before you know it, I'm here anyway, I might as well wash the rest of the dishes, So a new habit should not feel like a challenge. The actions that follow can be challenging, but the first 2 minutes should be easy. What you want is a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. So the big one, if you're an author, start with writing one sentence, because that leads to one paragraph, which leads to 1,000 words, which leads to a 5,000 word article, which leads to writing a book. It's chunking it down. It's something we do in business, in management. When you've got, especially if there's a task that you need to do that is not something that floats your boat, something you really can't be bothered to do, or you're putting off, or feeling like you need to, I really don't want to get around to, I'll do it tomorrow, you're procrastinating on it. It just gets started. And then before you know it, you've got the thing done and it's out of the way. And then you spend less time worrying about the fact that you've got to do it and you don't want to do it than you do just doing it. And then it's done. The Brian Tracy book, Eat the Frog. Have you read that one? So yeah. Go on.
I was just saying, heard about it because I was just in another mastermind yesterday too. Someone was talking about that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's become a common expression. The type was a book title, Eat the Frog, and it's just exactly that. Do the thing that you've been putting off doing that you don't really want to do. Just get it done. and then you can get on to the stuff that you want to do, rather than it weighs on your mind all the time. You go, I've got to do that thing. I don't want to do that thing, but I've got to do that thing, you know, and it just clutters up your brain and stresses you. And how often when you do something you've been putting off doing, you find that it wasn't anywhere near as hard as you'd imagined it was going to be.
And I think if you can attach a reward, no matter how small, I think that helps. I find when I do that, it's very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we are motivated by rewards, aren't we? And when he says that right at the beginning of the book, that's the 4 steps, wasn't it, Stan? What were the 4 steps again? Cue,
craving,
response, and reward.
Right, that's right.
So you got it, Jane, and just reward. I love this expression caught my attention, that every time you are taking an action towards something you want to do, you are casting a vote for that habit. I love that. You're casting a vote for your new identity. So it's who you want to become. Every time you do the thing that kind of person would do, you're casting a vote towards becoming that kind of person. And that's it's a key tenet that he talks about at the beginning. A fundamental of change is what kind of person would do that thing that I want to be doing. So I need to become that kind of person. Like the smoking example, if a person is offered a cigarette and they answer with, "Oh no, I'm trying to quit smoking," they still see themselves as a smoker who's trying not to smoke. But if they answer with, "No, I don't smoke," they have created for themselves the new identity of being a non-smoker. Therefore, they're less tempted. So it's a subtle difference, but who we see ourselves as is the key to it. And each step that we take is casting a vote. Every time we repeat that habit, we're casting a vote for that person that we want to become. You're smiling, Coralie. Have you been
That's because I was just thinking about, once you're an ex-smoker, you're not just, "No, I'm a non-smoker." You're like, "Get that shit away from me."
Yeah, you are. They say the worst people to be around are the non-smokers when someone's trying to smoke.
Very much. It's so true.
So it's better to do less than you hope than to do nothing at all. So that example, 1 minute of guitar practice or 1 minute of reading is better than never picking up a book. So you're scaling it back. You're using the 2-minute rule. I thought this was very interesting. I remember listening to it on the audiobook about the guy who lost a load of weight by going to the gym for 2 minutes. And if you're going to struggle with this habit change that you want to implement, restrict it to 2 minutes. So this guy actually was going to the gym. He'd get his gym clothes on. He'd drive down the road to the gym. He'd turn up. And he'd do 2 minutes workout, and then he had to leave and go home. And after a few weeks of doing that, he's like, "To hell with this, I'm here anyway, I might as well do a workout." So he carried on and started to stay longer and longer, and ended up getting himself fit and losing a lot of weight. I'm not sure that I could do that, where you cut yourself off at 2 minutes ago. No, I'm just going to do 2 minutes and then I'm going to stop, because that requires a certain amount of discipline to do that as well, doesn't it? The point, though, was you become a doer, you become a starter, you turn up, you show up, you do it. You're forming the habit of showing up to do the thing, rather than just thinking about doing the thing or planning to get around to doing the thing. So there you go. He says you can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. So once you've got that habit, even if it's only 2 minutes, you can then stretch it to 3 minutes, and then 4, and then 5, and then it can become a new habit.
It's almost like a dog doesn't bark at a parked car.
Yes.
Come back, Jane, come back. No, well, a dog, dogs will chase a car that's going down the street, but it won't bark and go after a parked car. Well, it's still, the car is the car. It's that.
What does the dog do when it catches one car?
I don't know, Stan. I love for you to answer that.
Does the dog only chase it for 2 minutes and then stop?
Well, because it goes out of sight.
Uh-huh.
But I guess to me, if I were a dog, it's like you don't like the car, right? Well, no, maybe it's the fact that it's moving. Okay, so, but why is it that a dog, I guess I think of literally Pavlov's dog and how we all get trained in our habits like Pavlov's dog. Well, a dog chases the moving car. Why doesn't the dog see the same car and bark at it?
Now, I've got a theory on that one.
Okay.
Okay, so animals in the wild, you're taught, if you're confronted by a bear or any sort of big creature that's going to possibly attack you,
don't run.
You don't run, because all animals see that as a sign of weakness. That's like, you're afraid of me, so I know I can beat you. So I'm going to attack you because I know I can win. But if you stand up to them, they're like, well, I'm not sure if I can beat you. You seem pretty confident. Maybe I can't beat you. Well, maybe let's not just have a fight. You go your way and I'll go my way.
Right. Yeah.
It's inbred into animals. It's running from me, so it thinks it's weaker than me, so I can chase this and kill it and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought that.
I've never seen a dog eating a car, mind you. But here's an interesting one for you. Some friends of ours went on safari in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And when they were out in the wildlife park, what they were told was, do not get out of the vehicle. The lion will walk right next to you. And this is an open vehicle where the lion is right there and could easily reach in and drag you out of that vehicle if it wanted to. And lions are pretty big, strong creatures. If you stay within the confines of the vehicle perimeter, that lion will see you as part. It won't see you at all. It will see the vehicle. It will see your part of that vehicle, that big object. So I'm not taking any notice of that. I see those every day. I'm walking past you. It might even smell you, but it doesn't. It just associates your part of that thing. You step out of that vehicle, it sees you. It's aware that and then you're gone.
That line. First thought is Meals on Wheels. No.
And you know how many tourists think, just get out of the car to take a closer photograph? It's the gamekeepers over there have a big job making sure everyone is really aware of that one.
They should put doors on their car. That'll stop them getting out.
Lions, they know how to open the doors.
I'm curious, do you, where you live, do you have problems with black bears?
We live in Australia. We only have drop bears.
Okay, so there are no black bears.
You have to watch out. When you're sitting around a campfire, the drop bears will come out of the tree and grab you. That's what we tell all the tourists. Don't tell anyone, but there's no such thing as a drop bear.
Okay, gotcha.
But there are hoop snakes.
There are snakes, but not rattlesnakes. We've got plenty of snakes. Don't worry about that.
Hoop snakes we've got.
Yeah. We've got snakes that have got snakes. We've got spare snakes in our box even.
Oh, I love it.
How to make chapter 14, how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Right. Sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. This is the inversion of the third law of behavior change. Make it difficult. So he gave the example of Victor Hugo wanting to finish this book, and his publisher was putting pressure on him to get the book finished. He had a deadline he had to reach, but he loved to go out. So he made sure that he had no clothes to go out in, not even a hat, Jane. So
not even a beanie.
he had them all locked away where he couldn't find them, couldn't get to them. So he had to stay in and finish the book. So a commitment device is a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. So you can reduce overeating by purchasing food in individual packages rather than in bulk size. You can voluntarily ask to be added to the banned list at casinos and online poker sites to prevent future gambling sprees. He said, I've even heard of athletes who have to make weight for a competition, choosing to leave their wallets at home during the week before weigh-in so they won't be tempted to buy fast food. My wife's always saying to me, don't buy any chocolate. We don't want it in the house, because if it's in the house and we know it's there, you're tempted to go and eat some. When you're sitting in front of the TV watching some mindless TV program, like, oh, I could really go a bit of chocolate right now. There, you've got to get it. You'd have to get in the car and drive down the road to go and buy some, and you're not going to do that because it's too much work. So that's the opposite of making it easy, is make it difficult. So I thought this was interesting, and I haven't done this, but whenever I'm looking to cut calories, I'll go to the restaurant and ask the waiter to split my meal in half and box half of it to go before the meal is served. If I waited till the meal came out, told myself I'll just eat half, it would never work. You start eating and go, oh, I'm really enjoying this. Maybe I'll just finish this particular meal and I'll get it. And this is where the Ulysses Pact came in, where he's tied to the mast of the ship. I knew it was there somewhere. So commitment devices increase the odds that you'll do the right thing in the future by making bad habits difficult in the present. So then we come to the cash register example. The guy who was losing a lot of money from staff theft in the workplace came up with the idea of what ultimately became the cash register. So by having the money put away, and you had to perform certain actions to be able to access the money, it made it harder to alter it, or people to just put a bit in their pocket or something. And his business went from losing money to making $5,000 in profit, the equivalent of more than $100,000 today. And he bought 2 of these cash registers for $50 each. So he spent $100 on cash registers and made $5,000 in profit. Pretty powerful example there. The reason why it was that it automated ethical behavior by making stealing practically impossible. Rather than trying to change the employees, it made the preferred behavior automatic. So he gives lots of good actions, one-time actions that lock in good habits, like buying a water filter to clean your drinking water, or using smaller plates if you want to reduce the size of your portions. It's an old thing. If you want to lose weight or keep your weight under management, put less on your plate, because we are brought up as kids, aren't we? Eat what's on your plate. And I remember being told that, and I blame my parents for this. I remember being told, you're not getting your dessert unless you eat everything on your plate. It wasn't the dessert. So
because there's starving children in Africa.
Yes.
That's right.
And even saying we'll send it to them then was not going to work. So if you want to sleep, buy a good mattress, get blackout curtains, remove your TV from the bedroom. So when you know that you're following a bad habit, like might be watching a TV program before you fall asleep, just don't have the TV there in the room. Same with productivity in the workplace. Unsubscribe from emails that you don't want to receive anymore, rather than having to keep you know, moving them to the trash folder or something. I do that quite periodically. I'll go through and cull a load of things that I'm subscribed to, and I think I never look at that. I don't know why, how I came to be subscribed. That's just unsubscribe, or set a rule that it goes automatically into the junk folder, or, you know, just gets deleted straight away. This is one I use, and actually, did I even do it now this morning? Setting your phone to silent. So if you know you don't want to be disturbed, I did have it on silent. There you go. At night time now, I'll put it to do not disturb. You can have there's a setting on your phone, you can have that. So even if someone wanted to call in, because it happens in Australia where you've got the different time zones, so someone might call you from the eastern states, not realizing that, you know, because it's 7 a.m. over there, that it's still 4 a.m. here, and you know, they wake you up in the middle of the night and go, oh, sorry, I forgot about the time difference. You know, which if it's a junk marketing call or something, that would be really annoying. So lots of little good habits examples in there that you can do to in all areas. You can do this in all areas of your life. Now here's one that comes up for most people: technology. It's both a blessing and a curse. You know, we can easily use it to create good habits, but we can also find it very annoying that it can lead to bad habits. You know, you go on to answer an email, before you know it, you're spending half an hour on Facebook, and you're like, how did I end up going from there to there? Oh, because there was an email that had a link in it that took you to there, and then you saw something else that was interesting, and then you read another article, and so it goes on. So he actually was extreme in this. He had his assistant locked him out of the internet, and it only gave him the access key for the router on the weekend, so he had to concentrate on work. That's because he was writing. He was trying to get the writing, so he didn't obviously need the internet to do his writing. He'd probably save it all on the computer and then upload it to the internet. You know, well, you'd have a backup system, wouldn't you? But he made it that he could no longer access the internet himself without his assistant giving him the key to do it. So another one, if having meal delivery services, you know, to reduce food wastage in the house, where you buy things and you think, oh, I'll cook that for dinner. Oh, no, I can't be bothered to cook that. I'll do it tomorrow, and then the food ends up getting wasted. Has that ever happened to anyone? So now we've just started that. Joe's now got this meal ordering service, which he's got a menu like booked for the week of what we've got coming in, and it gets delivered. So you do one bit of work setting it up for the week, and then it all happens. I've done that with my social media. You know, I sit there and I've used a software system that posts blog posts to my various Facebook sites and Instagram and all those sorts of things. And it's just done automatically. Once I've done the work and set up the post, it's then on a rotating basis, and I've got different topics. So you know, I might have 20 posts about marketing, for example, and it'll just go through the first one, then the second one. When it gets to number 20, it goes back and starts at number 1 again.
What's the name of it's software, is it?
Yeah, so I'll send you a link, and you can access it, and then you just do the work once, setting it up, creating the posts, loading them into the program, and then it's set and forget. Set and forget is the way to go.
Yeah, I like that.
I love this point here. He says, and I've highlighted this one: the average person, well, we're none of us are average, are we? So we're all right. But the average person spends over 2 hours per day on social media. What could you do with an extra 600 hours per year? That's where it becomes confrontational, isn't it? I used that same example with my staff when I had my backpackers hostel and I had staff working in reception. We had black marker pens, you know, for marking people's names on packages and things. Like they wanted to label a bag of shopping that they put in the kitchen in the pantry area. They didn't want anyone else to steal it, so they'd write Coralie on the bag, you know, whatever the person's name was. So we had a black marker pen always. We had loads of them. We always had them in reception. And I found I was going through hundreds of these things because the staff kept leaving the lid off and the pen would dry up.
Mm.
But when I had a staff meeting with them, I went, you're thinking that's only a black marker pen. What's he on about? Well, that black marker pen cost me, I don't know what it was at the time, maybe $3, let's say. I said, but what if we're throwing one of those marker pens away every week? Times 52 weeks. 52 weeks times $3. You know, you're looking at over 150 bucks. But we're actually throwing away several marker pens a week. Now I said, you multiply that out at the end of the year, that's a lot of money. That could be the difference between me giving you a pay rise and not. And they went, oh, about that. So when you're thinking it's just a marker pen, oh, I've left the lid off, it doesn't matter. That becomes a big cost at the end of the year. So you use that, it's called the exaggeration to the ridiculous. Well, this wasn't ridiculous, it was actually a factual example. But if you want to get a point across like that, you multiply it out till the little insignificant thing is actually seen as a big thing. So if you're wasting 2 hours a day on social media, 600 hours, what could you do with 600 hours?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to write a book or take up guitar or learn a new language, could you learn a new language with 600 hours of application to learning Spanish, for example?
Mm-hmm.
So how many hours do you watch TV for per night? And is it productive? Are you watching a program you actually choose to watch, that you want to watch? Or are you just vegging out and channel flicking? So
I think I mentioned this yesterday to Tony, but one of the other coaches that I'm working with, we're doing accountability, and every day you have to message in that you've done stuff for the day. And if you haven't done the job that you said you were going to do, you have to text in, like, tapping course 0. And after a while you go, I don't want to send another 0. So occasionally I have been watching telly and then thought, he has messaged me and I'm like, oh, I need to send him one back again in a minute, but I haven't done my tapping course. So I will get onto that before I send it, because I don't want to send a 0.
Yeah, having an accountability partner is a big thing. I think back to the days when I used to go running. And so if you plan to go running with someone, you might not feel like going, but you don't want to let them down. So you go anyway. And,
right.
That's why I love team sports, because, I'm in a volleyball team, beach volleyball, indoor beach volleyball. I go and play 2 nights a week. I'm not going to not show up because I'm not going to leave the team short of players. So even if I'm tired from work and I really don't feel like it, and here's another one, I actually have my gear to change into to play beach volleyball in the car, so that I can go straight from work to beach volleyball. So there's another one of those forward planning things. I couldn't sort of use that, I haven't got time to get home and get changed and go back out again. So I've just got them in the car ready with me so I can go straight to it. So setting up that in advance means that I've ticked that box of might not do it. No, I've eliminated that one. I will do it. So yeah, but that's part of in the Noble Goldman platform. There is an accountability tool like that. You can do the 30-day quest, for example, where you have a partner in that, and you have whatever the actions are that you want to complete. You list those actions, and then you have to report to your partner, did I do it? Just like Stan's just said, you actually feel that pressure. You don't want to be the person who's sending the, no, I didn't do that today, because it rankles with you, doesn't it? A few years ago, I was in a sort of mentoring coaching group where there was a monthly competition. We had to report back. It was only once a month that we met up. We had to report back the next month with we had to give a presentation on what we'd achieved in that month. And then when we went around the whole table at the end of it, or when everyone had reported back what they'd achieved, particularly the things that they declared the previous month that they were going to do, that they then, and usually it was to implement stuff we'd learned during that presentation the previous month. So you have the presentation, you go, right, from that, what am I going to implement? you make a list, and then you report back, and we go around the table, and at the end of it, the lecturer would go, okay, now we're gonna vote. Who do we think has achieved the most in this month? Who has implemented the most of those things that we learnt last month? And everyone would vote on it. And I was determined, this is the competitive thing come in, I was determined I was going to win it. And it was a bottle of wine or something that you'd win for being the one who'd achieved and implemented the most. And I won it time after time because I made sure before I went to that meeting, I will have done most of those things that I said I was going to do. And you'd get people turn up and they go, oh, actually, no, I didn't do any of it from last month. And you imagine being that person having to go, no, I didn't do any of it. I didn't get any of it done.
Well, you know, to me, it feels like you're describing exactly what you were talking about 20 minutes ago, seeing yourself as the person that you want to be.
Yes.
And if you obviously see yourself as a winner, yes, in whatever fashion that presents itself.
And a doer, a winner and a doer. I mean, you win if you do. Like you've got to do what it is you set out to do.
Right.
Yeah, being goal oriented, having lots of fanciful things that you wish you might get around to, you won't get them done. But if you commit to doing it and then you set in place these atomic habits and follow through, you'll get it done. I thought this was very interesting. Somewhere I can't remember, I was listening to the audiobook and it came up somewhere that we really do very often think that we can achieve something, but we are looking for that groundbreaking moment, that huge momentous decision, you know. So when did you decide you were going to become an international rock star? Well, you know, I just woke up this morning and I thought tomorrow I'm going to be an international rock star. It doesn't work like that. You have done the years of training, the years of the 10,000 hour rule, you know, the Malcolm Gladwell thing. You've committed to something over a long period of time, and then suddenly you're an overnight success. We all know you don't become an overnight success overnight. You have to actually put yourself in that. You become that person who is capable of doing that thing because you've worked on it, you've set up the habits, you've followed through, you've done what you needed to do. And yet we're still looking for that groundbreaking. If I just do this one, if I just go to the gym tomorrow, I'm going to be super fit. No, like he says, you can go to the gym even 3 days in a row, being really committed and good. And at the end of the third day, like, well, I've done it 3 days in a row and I'm still not fit. Hell with it, I can't be bothered going to the gym anymore. And that's how, like, most people that join a gym don't follow through, and I'd be good with that myself. You might go for a month. But this was interesting. Somewhere in the book, he said that when you don't do the thing that you said you were going to do once, that's a slip. That we can cope with that. But if you do it 2 days in a row, that's starting to form a new habit. A habit of not doing it.
Right.
And that one resonated with me. I can tell you when I think, you know, some action that I've decided to do, like Stan saying, you don't want to be that person who's sending that, no, I didn't do it report back to your partner, or even in the mirror. You've got to look in the mirror, go, did you do that thing that you said you were going to do? No. Okay. You can all have circumstances. Life gets in the way. We know that. There's always the exception. There's always the thing that stops you. You might have had the best of intentions, but then you had to stop what you were doing and deal with something else, a family emergency or a work thing, and you didn't get the thing done that you really wanted to do. But that's okay. We can all forgive ourselves for that. But if we keep on not doing it, that is where we've let ourselves down. And that's the powerful thing about atomic habits, is that tiny changes do bring remarkable results over a period of time. So anyone, other thoughts? We're at time. Anyone, any other thoughts they'd like to add to what we've learnt this morning? Or any examples from that you've, since you've been starting reading this book, anything that's resonated with you enough to make a change that occurs to you?
Hmm.
I'll give you one while you're thinking about that. That I started at the beginning of the year. I had this thought about what's my word for the year. What's my sort of buzzword, if you like. And for me, it was a realization that I'm at my happiest when I'm being creative, and I wasn't following through on being creative enough. I was just too busy responding. I was too busy reacting to having to do lots of extra work because I haven't got enough staff in my business at the moment, and I'm getting sucked back into doing more and more work, which is taking me away from the stuff I really want to be working on. So I thought, what I'm missing out on is I'm not getting my creative fix. I'm not doing the stuff that enriches me, you know,
Hmm.
my soul, or whatever you want to call it. And so one of the things I thought, well, I can do is I will create a new post to go on social media every day, at least one a day. And pretty much for most of the year, I've been able to stick, or since I started that, I've been able to stick to it. I do get the odd day. And in fact, yesterday was one of those days when I didn't do a new post. I was actually about to go and do one in my office last night, and I realized I was completely knackered and I needed to go to bed. And that was because I knew I'd have to get up for this meeting. So that was non-negotiable because I'm here for this meeting. So I forgave myself for that yesterday and went, that's right, I'll do 2 posts tomorrow. So
Well, we thank you for that.
But that's okay. But if I then went another day today and not do it, then I've started a new habit of being the person who doesn't do the social media posts.
I think what this book has given me is it's truly created an awareness of one thing in particular, and that is everybody has creative avoidance. You know, that we can find so many really darn good reasons why we're not going to do A, B, C, or X, Y, Z. And it, you know, maybe we could even fool a couple of people here and there. Maybe they would buy that it's viable why we didn't do what we were setting out to do. And so I'm aware of my own habits and behavior, and what it really comes down to for me is like, well, whose life is this anyhow? By the way, you know, it's all about choice. And
you can fool the rest of the world, but you can't fool the person in the mirror.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's easy to come up with justifications.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do this because of blah blah blah.
Right. Couldn't possibly.
But stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to have to give someone a reason why you didn't do it, go and do it in front of the mirror first.
Mm-hmm. Well, if anything, I feel like the one thing that I have changed about myself in the last couple of years is I'm so aware of excuses that, oh no, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna tell it like it is, you know. And I think years ago there's a saying that why do people lie? Well, people lie because the truth isn't good enough. And I find that to be outrageous, but it's true.
Yeah.
So.
Nice share. Well done. I've got another new habit, and that's talking to myself out loud. I mean, especially if I'm on my own, because then you can get away with it. But like in the car, for instance, so the reason I'm doing that is it somehow sort of resonates more when, let's say, for instance, you're on the road and somebody's cut you off in traffic, and you can feel yourself getting irritated or agitated by what that person's just done. And my new mantra is, let it go. And I'll actually say it out loud. And it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
funny how powerful that is, that we are easily triggered by other people's stuff, by their actions, by things that they do that annoy us. And it could be, you know, you could use this when you're dealing with your kids, for instance, or with family members, or, you know, husbands or whatever. But when you're feeling like you're starting to get stressed, you're starting to get wound up by something, like someone's pushing your buttons, to just actually go, let it go. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It's all right. And I'll sit there, even talk to myself in the car and go, that guy's just been a whatever. Let it go.
Yeah.
Someone's, you know, when someone's cut in front of you, like they've gone from behind you, they've been driving right up, you're trying to get in your rear seat practically, and then they go around you and they turn in front, and then next thing is you go past them anyway because they're off, or, you know, and you think that didn't achieve anything for you, did it? You didn't get any further forward than you thought you were going to go in the traffic, but they're like rushing to try and get somewhere. Yeah, they're not even thinking about me. They're just trying to do their thing. Just let it go.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right. Right. No, no, isn't that so true?
Because I realized that that through the day, lots of little things can easily do that. They can build up where you're getting, you're having, you know, I had a stressful day. Why? Because you've allowed all these things to stress you. You let it happen to yourself. But instead, if you focus on just being calm and, you know, in a sort of Zen status, all right, they've got their thing going on, I've got my thing going on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what somebody says about you or thinks about you, even a lot of the time. We worry about that stuff, don't we? But
yeah,
let it go.
It's none of my business what you think about me, you know?
Yet we feel like we've got to defend ourselves. We've got to justify why we did what we did, or, you know, why we think what we think. Or if someone disagrees with you on Facebook, does it matter? Not really.
You know what helps with that too is, and I think this has been like a mantra of, to possibly adopt, to ask yourself, is it going to matter in a week? Is it going to matter in a month? Right?
Absolutely. Will this matter in a year? No.
No. No.
So why does it matter now?
Right. It's because it's the same difference. And if you want to argue that, it's like, okay, maybe the problem is that you need to be right, and that's why you're arguing that. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's just, please don't let me be wrong. I can't be wrong. My father said I was wrong all the time, and I can't handle that. You know?
Maybe Coralie would remember this. There was one of the other books we were reading recently. We've gone through a few, so I can't remember which book it came out of now. But it was to start a sentence with, if you're having a discussion about something with somebody and you disagree with what they're saying, you preface it with, I may be wrong about this, but I think that this is the case, you know? So just by starting with, I may be wrong about this, leaves it as, I'm not asserting my viewpoint is right and yours is wrong. I don't need to be right. I know I am, but
right.
I may be wrong about this. What you're trying to do is allow the other person to consider it from a different angle, rather than trying to convince them that your viewpoint's right and theirs is wrong.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been Win Friends and Influence People.
It probably was. Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
All right. Well, we're at time, so thank you again, everyone. We will.
Thank you.
Next time we will tackle the fourth law.
And what's our next book?
I'm glad you asked, because I was thinking about that very thing before we started the call this morning. So I'll give you some forewarning on that one.
Yeah.
This is what I would like to do, and I hope it's one that works for you, is to go to Simon Sinek, Finding Your Why.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a very helpful book for people to review. If you haven't read it, then you are not reviewing it, you're reading it. Just double check that was the right title, because it's on my list of must-read books on my website. I'll just bring that up. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of books there that we can work through, but it felt like this might be relevant for people. Sorry, it's called Start With Why.
Oh, not finding your why. It's Start With Why.
Actually, he's got two, hasn't he? He's got Finding. I think he's got Finding Your Why and Start With Why.
So which one?
Let's go back to Finding Your Why, shall we?
Okay.
Does that resonate with you guys? Is it something you'd like to explore?
Very much. And that's probably because I have a famous saying. I call it famous because to me I have been holding on to it for so many years, and I just love it. And it's this, that your why should make you cry.
Sorry, it's called Find Your Why, not Finding. Find Your Why.
No, yeah.
That's the follow-up book. Because Start With Why is the first one.
Ah, was it, Stan? Sorry, yeah, it's been a while since I read them. Well, should we start with Why then? That would make sense, wouldn't it? Yes, Find Your Why is then the kind of, like you said, the follow-up.
Because I've never heard of Find Your Why. I've got Start With Why, but then I was like, what? There's a new book? Oh, wow. Put that on my list.
Start With Why explains really why we should start with why, and it gives you lots of examples. And then Find Your Why is more of a directed thing to help you if you're struggling to figure it out. But let's go with Start With Why.
Okay.
Which is the one I've got on my highly recommended reading list. So Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I love listening to him. I love watching him do his presentations on YouTube. He is just such an easy, entertaining speaker to listen to and to watch. He's animated, he's interesting, he's got loads of good examples from really interesting places to illustrate his points. And he's a great observer. He observes human behavior on a whole other level to most people. He's sort of thinking strategically, and in the corporate world, he's tremendous management consultant. He works with companies like Apple and Microsoft and big corporations, and the armed forces. He does a lot of work with the US military. Fascinating insights that he comes up with. So, and loads of really good case studies that illustrate his points. So that's certainly one we'll go towards. So, but next week we'll carry on with the fourth law. So that is chapters 15, 16, and 17. And then we've only got one more after that, which would be advanced tactics. So then after that, we'll be going on to Simon Sinek.
Okay, that sounds great. I don't know, how long have you been doing the book club?
Well, it didn't actually start out as a book club. It was actually, I would come up with a topic for every meeting that we would just discuss a random topic. So, so I was thinking about that because I used to have 2 meetings a week, and we somehow along the way, I think it was because Martin had reviewed a book, it became an easy way of prompting discussions about what we were learning from the book. But I did do also a mastermind each week where we would just have a random topic that I would come up with for the week, and we would debate that topic and our own personal anecdotes, references to how we related to that topic. So once I've got more staff in again, because we've just had our borders reopen here in Western Australia, where people are allowed to travel here again.
Oh, that's great.
I've had
but they can't afford to travel now.
They can't afford to travel.
I know.
They will start coming back in once I've got students in the country again. I'll be able to get more employees.
What did I say? I saw a meme last night that says March 2021. can't travel more than 5Ks. March 2022, can't afford to travel more than 5Ks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lag. Like we're open for students, but the students may not have the money or the resources or whatever to come over. So, so it's been really hard to find staff for a lot of businesses over in Western Australia. But once I get more staff back in again, I will free myself up, and then I'll be able to allocate some time to do a couple of extra masterminds. So I want to have one that's not just, I didn't want it to become just a book club, but I'm actually enjoying this. I'm enjoying working back through books that I have read these books, but it might have been years since I read it. And certainly when I read Tony Robbins, when we went through that one,
Oh, I know.
Giant Within, there was so much of it that I had subconsciously or unconsciously absorbed into my day-to-day thinking and philosophy. And that was really refreshing to realize that I had not just read the book, I had learned and applied the principles that were in it as well. So, but it's a journey of constant and never-ending improvement. Tony Robbins calls it that. Can I? Constant and never-ending improvement. It is, none of us are complete ever. And just when we think we are, we've got to come across a load of stuff to learn. So, that's the beauty of being a human being.
Yeah, that's so true. I just was wondering if everyone might, there's so many interesting books on the market that have to do with like the metaphysical.
Yeah.
And there's so many. I just didn't know if that would be something to read and to discuss.
There is one in particular that occurred to me on that, was a Joe Dispenza book. So that might be something we go on to after that then. Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'm open to ideas and suggestions, and we can pick a book and review it. What do you think about the Simon Sinek one?
I think that's great.
All right, well, we've got plenty of time then to come up with suggestions for what comes after that. So I like this, going back through these books. I think it's been very informative and reminding me of what it's one thing to learn it, it's another to apply it, and so we all need that.
Oh yeah.
All right, thank you guys. I'll see you all same time next week.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Be well.
Bye.